Hello, everybody. Today we will be continuing our algebra course. Today we will be going over section 1.4, which is on fractions, and it is hosted by Iridium Tutoring. All right, so let's get into it. So let's just go over what are fractions. Fractions are just another way of writing division. For example, 10 divided by 5 can be written as this, or 2 divided by 5 can be written as this, just a line between them. These are equal, these are the same things. These represent the same things. So on a computer or anything, when you type your fractions, you just use a forward slash, otherwise known as a slash, just like this, like in the example, or so this and this are equal, and then this and this are equal as well. Both of them represent 2 divided by 5. And then for the first one, both of them represent 10 divided by 5. All right, so the number on the top, by top, we mean, so let's say it's x divided by y. So the number on the top, so x, would be the numerator. And the number on the bottom is known as the denominator. All right, so we can look at these really good visual representation of fractions. So this entire circle is represented as a whole, but then it's broken into 2 equal parts. That's why this fraction would be 1 part is filled out of 2 parts. And then in this case, the entire whole would be a circle and it's divided into 4 sections, hence the denominator. Divided into 4 sections, but only one section is filled here, hence the numerator. 1 out of the 4 sections are filled. And then in this one, it's the same thing. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total sections, hence the denominator right here. That's 8. And then only one part of those 8 slices are shaded in. So only one part, hence the numerator. Alrighty, how else can we write fractions? How about decimals and percentages? Decimals are written with a decimal point, or like a period, but it's known as a decimal point right there. For example, 1.2 or 2.5. Those are all decimals. And then you may see this with things like money. But the thing with money is that money is actually special because, at least in dollars, you only go 2 decimal places out. So $15.50, you can only go out 2 places because the lowest currency that we have is 1 cent. So you could have 0.01, which is just 1 cent. So it's special with money. And then percentages are written with a percent sign like this. For example, 15% or 70%. You may see things like this with discounts. That was a pretty bad line. With discounts. Half off, or you may see 50% off, which is a pretty good deal. Yep. All right, so converting from fraction to decimal. You may notice that if you type a fraction into a calculator, you get a decimal. Turning a fraction into a decimal is the same as just dividing. If you can remember from our first slide, writing this is the same as writing this. 1 over upon 8 is the same as 1 divided by 8. So all you're doing is really dividing to make it into a decimal. All right, so as with any division, you start with the given digits. In this case, 5 and 6. Then you add a 0 to the right of the dividend and the decimal point to the right of the quotient you've already found. Repeat until you get a 0 as the remainder. So by the case, they're referring to this case right here. Let's just run through this quick example right here. 15 divided by 8. 15 upon 8 is the same as saying 15 divided by 8. So first you would set it up for long division. 15 divided by 8. So 8 goes into 15 only one time. Then you would say 8 right there. You would subtract this, and you would get 7. Now the special thing you can do here is that, so with any and all whole numbers, whenever you write a whole number, there's always this imaginary decimal point right there. So in this case, there's technically a decimal point next to that 15. So when you do that, you have to put a decimal point next to in the same line as well right here, as you can see that. So now you can keep going. So now you can put a 0 after that decimal point and then bring that down. So this becomes 70. And then 8 times 8 is 64. And then when you subtract that, you get 6. Then you can add another 0, bring that down, and this becomes 60. And then you would multiply 8 times 7 to get 56. Subtract that, and you get 4. Then you would have to add another 0 because we still have not gotten a remainder of 0. So this would be 40. Now 8 times 5 is an exact 40. So now you finally get your remainder as 0. And if you look back up in the product, your final answer would be 1.875. So, in conclusion, 15 upon 8 is equal to 1.875. All right, so converting from decimals to fractions. So first you want to take the number of digits to the right of the decimal point and write that many zeros. Then put a 1 in front of it. Next, take the either decimal without the decimal point and use that as the numerator. So in this example, 1.489, there are 3 digits to the right of the decimal point, as you can see, 4, 8, and 9. Write 3 zeros and put a 1 in front of those zeros, which would be 1,000. And then take the entire number without the decimal point, which is 1,489. Put 1,489 in numerator. Remember numerator is the top, and 1,000 in the denominator. So as you can see here, 1.489. Just saying 1.489 by itself is the same as saying 1.489 upon 1. So that would then be converted by doing by going 3 times over with the decimal point here, but then you have to do the same thing down here, 3 times down there. So my point is that in any other case, let's say you make this go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 places down. You have to make this go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places down as well, is my point. So both numbers will be affected by that. All right, moving on. This would be your fraction. 1,489 upon 1,000 is what your fraction is. And then you would just keep simplifying if you can to get a simplified fraction. All right, converting between decimal and percentage. Converting between decimal and percentage is actually not as hard as you would think. Once you get the decimal form, it's easy to turn it into a percentage. So what you would do is that you would multiply the decimal by 100 and add the percentage sign. Remember, the percentage symbol is written like this. For example, the decimal 0.47988 would be 47.988%. See what we did there. We multiplied it by 100, so the decimal point moved down by 2. So whenever you're multiplying by 10 or a power of 10, it would go down by how many zeros it has. So if you're multiplying this by 10, it would go down by only 1 because there's only 1 0 in 10. So it would be 4.79. But in terms of percentages, you always have to multiply it by 100. So then you would get 47.988. And then you add the percent symbol and yeah. So try taking the decimal result of 15 upon 8 and turning it into a percentage. Pause the video and see if you can do that. All right, so how you would do this is so remember our number was 1.875. You just multiply this by 100 to get 187.5, but then you have to add the percent symbol right there. So you get 187.5%. Similarly, turning the percentage back to the decimal is the same way as dividing by 100 and getting rid of the percentage symbol. For example, 56.779% would be 0.56779, because what you're doing here is that you're dividing by 100 and getting rid of that percent sign. All right, now we'll be talking about improper fraction and mixed numbers. Improper fractions have a numerator that is greater than the denominator. As seen here, 7 upon 2. 7 is clearly greater than 2, right there. And then mixed numbers include a whole number and a fraction. So let me just write that mixed number more clearly. And so in this case, 3 is the whole number, and then 1 upon 2 is the fraction. See, fraction, and then whole number. To convert an improper fraction to a mixed number, you would divide the numerator by the denominator. As you can see, 11 upon 2, then 11 divided by 2. Write down the whole number result. So the result would be 5, but then you get a remainder of 1. Hence, 1 will be the numerator for this, and then 5 has to be the whole number. And then looking back at your original fraction, the denominator does not change. So you would use that same denominator right there. And that's how you convert from improper to mixed number. Now, to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction, it's actually quite easy. You would multiply the denominator by the whole number. So you would do 7 times 3 first. So 7 times 3 is 21. And then you would add that value to the numerator. So you do 21 plus 2, which equals 23. Now write the result on top of the denominator. Remember, the denominator does not change. So you would use the same denominator, and then you got this value right here, which is written right there, and that would be on the top. And that's how you get your improper fraction. All right, so now we're going to be talking about adding fractions. So if the fractions you need to add have the same denominator, all you need to do is just add the two numerators and keep the denominator. So in this case, all you're doing, so you see down here, the denominators are exactly the same. Hence, you can do 4 plus 2 and get 6. And then you would keep the denominator, so it would be 6 upon 7. Notice that the numerators are summed together while the denominators stay the same. Don't make the mistake of adding the denominators. This is a very, very important piece of advice. Do not change the denominator in this case. If the fractions you need to add have different denominators, so in that case, if it was 4 upon 7 plus 2 over 6, to do this, you need to find the lowest common multiple, or LCM, of the denominators. Then multiply the numerator and denominator of both fractions so that both the denominators of those fractions become the lowest common multiple. Solve as you would with fractions that have the same denominator. When adding mixed numbers, find a common denominator. Multiply numerator and denominator by the same number. Add up the fractional parts and the whole parts. If the fractional part is improper, convert it into a mixed number and add the whole number parts together. Right here, 3 and 5 upon 8 plus 2 and 1/2 equals 3 and 5 upon 8 plus 2 and 4 upon 8. So as you can see, we multiplied this by 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, and then 2 times 4 is 8, as you can see here. And then all we did is added 3 plus 2, and then 5 plus 4 upon 8, remember? So 5 and 9 upon 8. But then you would simplify this even more by getting 6 and 1 over 8. Going back to this example right here, since these have different denominators, all you would do is find a common multiple between them. So you could maybe do 42 in this case. So all you would do is 4 times 6 first, which would be 24 upon 42 plus, and then in this case, what you're doing is multiplying by 7. So you do 2 times 7, which is 14. And now you would just add 24 plus 14 to get 38 upon 42. All right, now we're going to be talking about subtracting fractions. The steps for subtracting fractions are almost exactly the same as adding them. The only difference is that you're subtracting instead of adding. Really. Okay, so in how I like to do mixed fractions is that first I want to convert them into improper fractions. So 6 times 9 is 54 plus that 1 would be 55 upon 9. Remember, keep the denominator the same. Minus, then you would convert 4 and 2 upon 3 into improper by doing 4 times 3, which is 12, plus 2, which is 14, and then keep the denominator same. So now you would find, so now you can see that to make the denominators the exact same, you want to multiply the 3 by 3 so that you get 9. But remember, you have to multiply the entire fraction, including the numerator, by 3 as well. So then this would equal 55 upon 9. Oops, I should 3 times. So 55 upon 9 minus 14 times 3, which is 42 upon 9. See how the denominators are the same now? Since you have same denominators, you can subtract the numerators. Now, just like addition, do not make the mistake of subtracting the denominators as well. So only subtract the numerators. So you would do 55 minus 42, which equals 13, and then keep the denominator the same. So 13 upon 9. And then your final answer would either be 13 upon 9 or 1 and 4 upon 9 by using the mixed numbers, by using the improper to mixed numbers formula that we gave earlier. Lastly will be, we still have division after this. So multiplying fractions is rather simple. You just need to multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. After that, simplify if necessary. So in this case, the denominators do change. So you would do 2 times 6, and then you would do 3 times 2, which equals 12 upon 6. And then 12 divided by 6 is the same as saying 2. Because 6 times 2 equals 12. So that checks. That works. All right, lastly, we'll be talking about dividing fractions. The quickest way to divide fractions is keep, change, and flip. This is the three-way method for them. So you keep the fraction as it is, change the division sign into a multiplication sign, and then flip the second fraction. In other words, change the second fraction into its reciprocal. So the reciprocal is basically like saying, let's say you're given a fraction 1 upon 2. The reciprocal of 1 upon 2 would be 2 upon 1, because you're just flipping these the numerator by the denominator. So for another example, 5 upon 2, its reciprocal will be 2 upon 5, because you're flipping 5 and 2. So after those steps, solve the resulting expression with multiplication. So let's say you're given 6 upon 7 divided by 3 upon 4. You would use the keep, change, flip method. So what you would do is you would keep the first fraction, 6 upon 7, change the division sign to multiplication. But when you do that, you have to make sure to flip this into its reciprocal, 4 upon 3. As you can see, 3 and 4 flipped with each other right there. So now you would just use, if I go back, you would just use the multiplication method to solve. So you would do 6 times 4, which is 24, and then you would do 7 times 3, which is 21, and then 24 upon 21, if you simplify that down, you would get 8 upon 7. So your final answer is 8 upon 7. All right, so that's all for this video. Stay tuned for the next section, 1.5 of our algebra course hosted by Iridium Tutoring. And yeah, goodbye.